If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to Neely Fuller's Counter Racist Code Show. I am one of the co-hosts. My name is Mr. Bobby, and in the on-deck circle, as some of you can see on the screen, is Gate. But let me get some information out of the way, housekeeping. Let's say the topic today is going to be elections and voting. Is voting the pathway to justice? Now, this is part 2. It was suggested by one of the chatters, and so I forwarded that information to Gate, and Gate complied. So this is what we're going to discuss today. One of the, as a matter of fact, a very lively discussion. But let me get some general housekeeping activities out of the way. Okay, now you can support and promote the show by hitting the like button and share button. All right. Number 2, to watch this show, go to YouTube at Produce Justice, Facebook and Instagram at Produce Justice Neely Fuller Jr. And you can also watch the show live at producejustice.com. By the way, a replay of the show is available immediately on all of the platforms. All right. To get on the show, now this is important, to get on the show, and we want you to do that, to share your thoughts, click on the link in the feed, and you will be prompted on what to do next. You can also find the instructions on the website at producejustice.com. And I want to emphasize that because you actually help make the show better when you participate. I will read the chats when I get the opportunity to, but when you follow those instructions and get on the chat, you actually make it better. Now, when you do that, I'm asking you not to be so long because we only have an hour to get in, and I know your points are important. So make your points, get it in. Maybe we can get some responses, but don't be too long as we used to do on the when we had 2 hours. When we were on talktainmentradio.com. We're not on that now. We're on this platform right here. So make sure that you are concise, even if you have to practice it, whatever you're going to say to make it short so Gate or even myself can answer it. Okay, anyway, you can also feel free to read a passage from one of Mr. Fuller's books on air for discussion. Now, this is also important. To contact us off of the air, send your questions or comments to, now listen to this one, at contact@producejustice.com, and somebody will get that, and generally there will be a response to your request. All right, now this one is also important. We're going to talk about the books. To order the books, our guide, our manual, go to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com, and you can get the books. As of I understand that they are available for you to get, and we need those books so that we can understand and reference them when we're trying to make a point. And Gate usually, and this is also important, a lot of things are important. Gate usually has Mr. Fuller's voice, because we want to keep his legacy alive and to hear his voice. And hopefully we can get that tape of Mr. Fuller and Dr. Francis Quest Cress Welsing at some point because we need to hear her voice also. Okay, with that all the way, as I'm going to adjust my cell phone so it won't make a whole lot of noise, I'm going to present to you and introduce to others Mr. Gate. Mr. Gate, I know you're going to say you this morning being the 18th of November, 2025 show edition.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Bobby, and to the listening audience. Mr. Bobby was right. I am going to say I'm still learning, and we are all still learning. That should be an underlying theme as we go about our activities from day to day. The day you think you know it all is the day you stop growing, and you start on a path to destruction. I'm just telling you. So you have to keep learning. So I'm glad Mr. Fuller laid that foundation down with us. Also, Mr. Bobby made a reference to something about Mr. Fuller and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. We have some video. We have some really, really sharp, crisp, original video that's going to be produced on the Produce Justice website. And so that's why you should stay tuned, be on the lookout. We got some good things coming down the pike. So this show is just one facet of a very long arm of justice, producing tools produced by Produce Justice. That's why we call it Produce Justice, because Mr. Fuller, of course, he was the captain of the ship, and he put this entire process together. We're just instruments. We're here to implement. And since Mr. Fuller passed on February 1st of this year, then we're here to help keep his legacy alive. Now, what we are going to do, though, we're going to speak our mind. Mr. Fuller was very big on logic. He said, don't follow the people, follow the logic. And he included himself in that. As a matter of fact, let's just start out with Mr. Fuller's word. We're going to hear Mr. Fuller's word on several occasions today. We're going to start out with Mr. Fuller's take on following people and following logic. So hang on a second.
Code is called the United Independent Code. You don't give up your independence when it comes to evaluating any situation. You never go by what another black person says, another fellow victim, another prisoner of war, of racism, or about racism. You don't go by what Neely says or nobody else. You go by what conclusions you come to, and nothing else. And those conclusions should come by through logic, counter-racist science. That's what you follow all the time. And I got to emphasize that again and again and again.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people on this program call in on almost every program, the Carl Nelson Show and all that, on WL, which I'm on every now and then. And they say, well, Mr. Fuller, what are we going to do when you're not available or when you're dead? And I keep saying the United Independent System is about you being united as a person, not with Fuller. No, you don't unite with Fuller. What does that mean, uniting with Fuller? Fuller's a fellow prisoner. He's not exempt from white supremacy. He's under the system of white supremacy. Why would you follow somebody who's under white supremacy? That's not logical. You follow logic. That's what takes you out from under white supremacy. Logic came with the universe, cause and effect. You do certain things and you don't do certain things. That's what you call a code. A code is logical. It has nothing to do with who does it. Whoever does the logical thing is going to be a winner. It's going to solve problems. That's what black people have to tap into and stop being fascinated by people. Fuller makes mistakes. If you follow in Fuller, you're going to make the same mistakes that Fuller makes. This is one of the hardest things for black people to understand. Don't you follow anybody anywhere. Jim Jones or anywhere else. I don't care how it looks on the surface.
Yes.
Why? Because there's no such thing as a person that doesn't make a mistake. Get that cemented in your mind. There's no such thing as a person that doesn't make a mistake. So when you follow a person that makes mistakes, you're going to make mistakes. That's a guarantee. So black people worldwide need to get out of that immediately, as of this minute.
Well, to that, make you want to say, Mr. Fuller, why don't you tell us what you really think? Mr. Fuller was about problem solving. He was about getting things done. Now, we're going to pick up on this topic we talked about a couple of weeks ago. We talked about voting, elections, the political process. And I must admit, the conversation got very interesting. Some people have very strong opinions. Well, let me just get you out of the curiosity stage. Where do I stand on it? I vote. Okay. That's it. I vote. Is it? But Mr. Fuller's already told us you got to do what you do. You have to follow your own logic. So why do I vote? Well, I think about it this way too. I mean, I understand people who say they don't vote and don't want to vote. Voting doesn't work. Yeah, I get it. Because of the rampant injustice and associated with the political process, you kind of wonder why anybody would vote. But it's not perfect, but it's what we have. I look at it this way. Let's just say the voting process is not perfect, but neither is anything. Nothing in this system is perfect. Let's say you have to go to the grocery store. The grocery store isn't perfect. I mean, you have long lines. You got to park way out in the parking lot. The carts stick. Price is too high. These self-service lines everywhere. But because the grocery store is not perfect, what are you going to do? Not eat? Starve? I mean, you could start your own grocery store, grow your own food, but that takes time. So you have to do something in the meantime. Okay, but let's add another layer to this. Okay, let's just say you have already paid for the food, though. The money's already come out of your pocket. So that means now you're paying for somebody else's food. They're in there eating, as imperfect as it may be. They're eating, they're feeding their kids with your money. While you're out here saying, I'm not going to that store. It's not perfect. The line's too long. The carts stick. I don't like the self-service checkout. So somebody else is getting your food, using your money. Let's add another layer. Let's say your money is not only paying for the food, but it's also paying for the manager, the cashiers. So now your money is being used for this grocery system, and you have no say in it because you decided to check out of the grocery store. That starts to get a little hard to fathom for me. I'm paying for something. I'm paying for a system that I can't enjoy or partake in. And that's the same analogy I like to use when people say, I'm not going to vote. Voting sometimes seems like a waste of time. It seems like a waste of energy. But what is the alternative? Maybe let's go back to that grocery store. Listen, maybe you decide, I'm going to go back down there and tell these folks at this store, I got to give them a piece of my mind. I want my voice heard. And not only that, I'm going to grab some other folks who feel the same way. And that's really what voting is about. It's called the rallying of wills to achieve a desired end. Lord knows voting isn't perfect. I'll be the first one to say that. But I'm looking for that alternative. Now, last week we talked about some alternatives. I mean, none of them are perfect either, but I look at the voting process as almost like what we call the low-hanging fruit. If I could use a sports analogy, voting is like a basketball analogy, but voting is like a layup, okay? That's the easy shot. Okay, if I could use a baseball analogy, voting is like the walk. If I could use a football analogy, voting is like the field goal. No, it's not going to get you the best result or always the result that you want, but it moves the ball. Mr. Bobby, jump in here. Let me get you on mute.
Let me see what some chatters have to say here. Let's see here, going back up. Let's see here. Flying Guillotine is in the house, made a salute. Also, Sentwalk Ganazi, if I got that right, is in the house, and a salute. It says still learning and ready for today's class. Russell Crute says the code lives on, and that's good. Now, here's an interesting one. Thank you, Flying Guillotine 22. At More Facts with a Z. This is some Gate said Mr. Fuller was all about problem solving. I have a suggestion that may solve the problem of spreading the code. Is it possible to create a packet-sized code book that contains key points of Mr. Fuller? Interesting. And then Sentwalker Nagazi says, Brother Gate, if the grocery store is selling us toxic food, should we find another food store? All interesting. Voting, since that's what our thing is, I'm with you on this, Gate. I vote. And one of the reasons why is because if you want to affect change and you're on a sea of trouble, you got to be in it. You got to be in it to affect change. From the outside, it's not going to happen. You have to be in it, as bad as it may be. And it is bad. You see this. You see what they are doing, especially if you look at what Senator Chris Murphy did. I don't know if you looked at that, how they sneakily at night while everybody was asleep, what they did. Check it out. Senator Chris Murphy assignment. Look it up and see what he did toward the billionaires. See, we got to stop stuff like that. Check it out. I'm not going to tell you. Check it out. Do your homework. What they did in support, using us, taxpayers, to support them. You got to be in it. And voting is a way that is what is presented. That's how you can be effective. Now, nobody can tell you, who to vote for or what to vote for or what not to not to vote. That is up to you. But if you want this to be an effective change, then this is what you have to do. Go ahead, Gabe.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby. And Ngozi made a great point. He said, if the grocery store is selling you toxic food, should we find another food store? I say yes. And that's actually a good analogy for voting. If you don't like one candidate, you vote for another. That doesn't mean you don't vote at all. Just like you, just cause one grocery store is selling you toxic food, you don't stop eating. You go find a store that's not toxic. You may decide to grow your own food. You may decide to start your own grocery store. But you can't check out of the system. You can't stop eating. And that's the analogy. I mean, I like that question, Ngozi. You don't stop. You don't shop at a store that's toxic. But unfortunately, they're all toxic. Okay. So you have to find the one you have to eat from the one that might give you a stomach ache, but not the one that's going to kill you. And I hate to kind of use that old lesser of two evils kind of analogy, but even Mr. Fuller himself, he said a little bit of something is better than a whole lot of nothing. As a matter of fact, just so we don't wait until the end of the show, I'm going to pop in and we can look at this from Mr. Fuller's standpoint, because this is really Mr. Fuller's show. We have our own opinions. Mr. Bobby has his opinion. I have my opinion. So that's why I'm open to people who say, if you have a reason, if you feel strongly that we shouldn't vote, then I want to hear it. But let me just quickly, before I bring up the Mr. Fuller's quote, let me tell you some things that happens when you don't vote. What are you missing out on? Somebody else is determining pivotal and in some cases life-changing decisions on what happens in your life and to the lives of those that you love and care about. You are relegating, you are abdicating the power to someone else. You're basically saying, I'm going to sit over here on the sidelines and let somebody else determine how much taxes I should pay. Let somebody else determine how much mortgage or rent I pay. Somebody else decides whether or not my kid goes to a well-funded, safe school or a dilapidated school that's unsafe. I'm letting somebody else decide how affordable my health care will be. Now, these are kind of the decisions that you're giving up when you decide to check out of the political process and say you don't vote. Somebody else is going to decide how easy or how hard it is to start a business. You're saying to yourself, I don't want any say in that. You letting somebody else decide whether or not the jobs in your community are going to disappear, whether they're going to be shipped overseas or overtaken by automation. You letting somebody else decide about public policy, education, criminal justice. Now, this is what when you decide not to vote, you're saying to yourself, look, I don't want any part in any of these things. Somebody else is going to decide when or if you get your Social Security benefits, how much of it. Somebody else is going to decide whether you're going to get more freedoms or less freedoms. Somebody else is going to decide whether you invade this country or that country and expand the hegemony of this country. Somebody else is going to decide whether you have troops patrolling your streets. And somebody else is going to decide who, check this out, somebody else is going to decide who needs help the most and who gets the most constructive help. Because ultimately, that's what we're shooting for. And I've decided, whether it's right or wrong, voting is a tool that gets us there. It's the low-hanging fruit. It's the layup. It's the free throw. Now, when you don't vote, you surrender the control over your money, your job opportunities, your safety, your rights, your future. You decide to just give that up because, okay, let's just say I have other ways to get the same results. We talked about that last week because I am not blind. I didn't get to be this old by being a fool. Yes. I understand that sometimes there are other alternatives, but they're not mutually exclusive. Yes, we should take economic action. We should organize grassroots campaigns, build self-sustaining power. Yes, there are alternatives. There's legal groundwork we can do. Change the laws. We can educate. We can take direct action. We can actually take it to the streets. And then there's self-determination, where we say, okay, this system is broken. I'm going to determine my own destiny. But still, you have to remember, you're in a system. This system that Mr. Fuller has talked about, written 3 books about, this system is everywhere. You can go up to a desert island. You can dig a hole and get in it. But you're not going to escape this system. So while we're trying to dismantle this system, we have to do something to get us from one day to the next, to minimize the damage and get a return on our investment, which is levied against us in the form of taxes. I have somebody in the waiting room. I want to get his take on this. Thank you for joining us. And we have put the instructions in the feed. Mofax.
How you doing, sir?
Welcome to the stage, brother.
I'm the one that made the suggestion about the pocket size code book.
Yes,
I just
sir.
wanted, because I might have mistyped, and the logic behind that is we need to get this code spread to as many people as possible. But the book is of a significant size, so we can't carry it with us. So my idea was inspired by the pocket-sized Constitution, and even what China did with the Little Red Book. Now that was non-constructive what they were doing there, but if we could have that, we could easily spread it to people and also use it for ourselves. So that's my VGQ also as problem solving.
Mofax.
But I would like, yes.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. Finish up.
No. I was going to address the issue about voting.
Okay.
Okay. One, I think voting should fall under the category of VGQ. That's a person's decision whether they want to vote or not to vote. And if people don't vote, that should be respected. And if people do vote, that should be respected. Now, I'm going to use logic because I don't vote, but I'm not politically ignorant because it's one of the 9 areas of activity. So the logic behind me not voting is, like Mr. Fuller said, that the system of white supremacy takes all sides of every argument. Now I'm going to give you an example just of one of the confusions.
Okay.
People movement confusion. One party wants to bring people here to cause confusion, like Mr. Fuller said, keep those squatters moving. That's what one party wants to do. But the other party wants to mistreat the people that's been brought here. So there is no win, because this system is built off of what? Mistreating people.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And just another example is sexual confusion. One party wants to say mistreat the people that are sexually confused, but the other party wants to spread the sexual confusion. So there's no win-win in this system. But like I said, if a person wants to vote, I treat it like when people have a religion. Mr. Fuller said, just ask questions. If a person try to convince you to vote, just ask questions. You know what I'm saying? I don't try to sway them one way of voting or not voting, because, like I said, go back to my original statement, that's a form of VGQ for a victim in this system. Lastly, I would like to say that there is a strategy and a logic behind not voting, because if y'all know you're a businessman, what businesses try to do is reach the customer that's not buying their product.
Right.
If they have a demographic that buys Coke or Pepsi, they don't try to sway those people. You know what I'm saying? They do customer retention, but they don't put a lot of energy there. But if Black people, quote unquote Black people, stop participating in mass, and they know we vote in a block of 90% one way, if we went and said, hey, we have this block on the table that for whoever has the most to give us, whoever can reduce the amount of mistreatment we're giving, because they're not going to fix the problem, because the problem is fixing the problem is a system of justice. And then they're not going to do that. You know what I'm saying? They're just going to take some of the pressure off. So I'm going to land my plane with this final point, is that This is a system of mistreatment. And I'm on the side, like Mr. Fuller said, give me a straight dose. See, one of the parties are refined white supremacists, and the other side is unrefined white supremacists. I'd rather deal with a unrefined white supremacist because at least you know where they stand. See, this is the trick bag we get in because we want to deal with refined white supremacists because it makes us feel good. But the thing is, that's very dangerous because the refined white supremacy is a system that almost seems like it doesn't exist. So, like I said, that's my that's my logic-based analysis, and I'll wait for your reply.
Well, let me just say this. Hold 1 second there, brother. 1 second. Let me get myself back on here. I would say you are a very thoughtful brother. And I will say that I can tell this is not your first time around the block. Now, some things that you said, I'm going to agree with. And like you said, I really appreciate you injected VGQ because as you have heard, I endorse voting. Mr. Bobby, he's in favor of voting, and you're not. But that does not make either one of us wrong. Mr. Fuller was very adamant about you don't argue with other victims about their approach to dismantle this system. Like I say, I could sound like the most naive person on the planet if I sit up here and say, well, voting is going to solve all of our problems. I know that it's not. And more facts, I'm just going to say this, and the challenge I have, like you said, yes, I'm a business person. I've started businesses. I help others start businesses. One thing I'm big on is getting a return on your investment. Now, somebody the other day said, well, they're not going to pay taxes, so that's why they don't have to worry about voting because they didn't invest in the system in the first place. Well, I'm not going to take that route. So when I put my money in something, I expect some type of return. I use the analogy of the grocery store. If I'm paying for this food and I can't eat it, I'm going to have a problem with that. Now, what that does mean, Mr. Fuller has said this as well. We all still learning. One day I may decide, man, I've done everything I know to do. I've got to find another way. Voting is not the answer. Maybe I decide that voting is the answer, or maybe there's a third option. So I don't give up. And that's what I encourage people to do. Like Mr. Fuller, he had a word for it. It's called follow the logic. Where does logic lead you? Logic led Mo Facts one way, it led me another way. And we still sitting here speaking like civilized, civil human beings. We're not fighting each other. Thanks to Mr. Fuller, who gave us this get out of jail free card, VGQ. So some things are more than just facts and talks. Some things are life-changing. Some things are absolute. But there's a lot of gray area in dismantling this system. Mr. Bobby, let me get you back up here. Hold on, Mr. Bobby. Go ahead. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. Something not working here for a second. Hold on. Don't go anywhere, Mr. Bobby. I'm going to put Mo Facts back in the green room for a minute here. All right, while we're doing that, Mr. Bobby, hang on a second, okay? I'm trying to get you back up, and something's happening on the microphone. What I'm going to do in the meantime, Mr. Fuller hates to leave us in the dark about the way he feels about things, but even Mr. Fuller said, don't follow him, follow the logic. Mr. Fuller he didn't like, I could tell he kind of, you ever seen somebody do something, they hold their nose and do it? He like, well, look, I'm not going to be your biggest advocate for voting, but let me tell you how you feel about this matter. Hold on a second.
Is it logical, according to universal logic, is it logical to vote in the United States election?
Yes, I do it. So I have to.
Logical, according to universal logic, is it logical to vote in the United States election?
Yes, I do it. So I have to say it. I mean, one thing you can't stand from Neely Fuller is just to add to the list of hypocrites. And it's something I learned from a black sergeant in Wajima, Japan, back in the 1950s. And he said, Fuller, you talk all this philosophy and all like that. He says, but when it comes to some things, like satisfying wants, he says a little bit of something is better than a whole lot of nothing. And so I thought about that. It rang a bell with me. And it kind of stuck with me. So when I look at the elections and all like that, man, in my opinion, I'm going to sell the world. Everything about them, every election everywhere so far has been shabby. Every last one of them. Just as shabby as they can be. I don't care what so-called party you belong to or what nation you're in. I mean, this is terrible. All of it. But you do the best you can with what you got. That's what Thurgood Marshall said. That's how he wanted to be remembered. I did the best that I could with what I had.
Do the best you can, but what you had. That's what he said. He said, I do the best I can with what I have. Go ahead, Mr. Bobby.
Okay, we're speaking about voting. Okay. Now, like Fuller said, he just said it that he votes or he voted. Gate has mentioned that he votes and I vote, and probably many of you vote. I had mentioned earlier about Senator Chris Murphy. Now, this is what he has done already. Chris Murphy stated that billionaires have a different mindset than ordinary Americans because they don't rely on public services like public schools, Medicaid, and Social Security. He argues that they can afford private alternatives and that their wealth allows them to prioritize tax cuts for the ultra wealthy, even at the expense of programs that benefit the poor and middle class. He has also accused the current government of working to hand control over to billionaires through policies that benefit the rich, such as tax cuts that transfer wealth from the working class to the affluent. Public services. Murphy believes billionaires do not need public schools, Medicare, or Social Security because they have private access to education and health care. He argues that this makes them indifferent to the potential cuts to these services that could affect millions of ordinary Americans. Tax cuts. See, if you don't vote, because you can do something about it by voting to get that stuff out of there. If you don't vote, this is what they're going to do. This is what they are doing with Project 2025 and Agenda 47. Those are the ones we know about, but the secret agendas that we do not know about. So if you don't vote, then don't say nothing. You don't have anything to say. Your opinion means nothing. You have to, well, in my opinion, you have to get out and have a say so in what they're doing because they're going to do it anyway. They don't have no respect for us. So voting, and I'm glad you brought the caller the chatters mentioned about and wanted to go a part 2 about voting. It needs to be discussed, and somebody on the chat said we need to plan a strategy to get it done. And in that strategy planning, you have to realize you got to be in there to be able to affect it. If you don't, you just talking loud and saying nothing. There was a song like that. Go ahead, Gabe.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby. There's an old expression I find very poignant, and it goes like this. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Think about that for a minute. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And I can tell you right now, voting is the enemy of the racists and the white supremacists. So marinate on that for a minute. Now, I don't think this is up for debate. History is replete with examples of the racists trying to get rid of voting. Go all the way back to post-Reconstruction, poll taxes, literacy tests, grandfather clauses, white primaries, voter violence and intimidation. These guys did not want non-white people to vote. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Then finally in 1965, we saw the 1965 Voting Rights Act. It prohibited discriminatory voting practices. It established federal oversight, particularly in states that had a history of discrimination. This led to increased voter participation and registration and the election of non-white officials. But let me tell you something, the racists never sleep. They don't give up. We saw as recently as 2013 in Shelby County versus Holder that these same states that were prohibited under the 1965 Voting Rights Act, they stripped out a line called pre-clearance, where in the Voting Rights Act, anybody who had a history of discrimination had to be pre-cleared before they changed the rules. 2013 Shelby v. Holder stripped away that pre-clearance. I'm just telling you, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Now we have, bring it up to 2025. We have stricter voting ID laws that make it harder for non-white people. We're purging the rolls of eligible voters. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, okay? Reducing the early voting opportunities in predominantly non-white communities. Polling places actually being closed in predominantly non-white communities. And you have this felony disenfranchisement of millions that predominantly affect non-white people. So, what happens when this happens? You have underrepresentation. You have diluted voting power. You have gerrymandering. You have decreased accountability. And you have reinforcement of racial inequality. That's what happens. That's the end result. Voting is a fundamental right, whether you like it or not. And it's essential in a democratic society. And whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, that's where you are. This is not gate talking. This is the fact. You're going to run off to another island somewhere, say, I'm not going to participate. That's your right. I understand. We've been treated terribly by both parties. But there is such a thing as a matter of degree. Some people are worse than others. There's no lie about it. There's no denying that. Some people are worse than others. So what do we do about it? We vote for policy outcomes. Now you say to yourself, what does policy have to do with justice? You're saying, well, look, I have the code book. That's all I need. The code is what works for me. Look, reading a book is for guidance on what to do next, but you have to do something. You have to do something to make sure that no one is mistreated. You have to take some type of action to ensure that those that need help the most get the most constructive help. You can't just read the book and go to sleep. So whether you like it or not, this is the system we have. You can start your own system, but that's going to take time. And you can't say, well, I'm doing okay because I don't vote. But what about the millions of people that are not doing okay? What about the children? They can't vote. What about grandma and grandpa at the end of their life? They're in their golden years. And you have somebody trying to strip away their Social Security. What about the people that don't have health insurance? Do you have a system to replace the system that we have that can ensure health to the sick and infirm? I want to hear about it. You tell me. And I will sit back and give you the mic. I want to hear it. What system do you have that's going to take care of the ailments in my body, in the body of my elderly people, of the people suffering with some type of disability? Do you have a system to replace the one that we have? Well, if not, we have to vote to make sure that those resources are distributed equally, and to make sure that those who need the most help get the most constructive help. If you have another system that's going to do that, I would shut up, close this mic, and hand it over to you. Mr. Bobby.
From the chat, Post Break 1062 says, comment with the use of digital voting machines and cheating allegations, many are discouraged from national voting, while also sitting out of local voting, which cannot be easily rigged. Jason Reels Network says Neely Fuller Jr. never believed in country government. He believed it's the world government of white supremacy. It's the only government on the planet. And then post-break again, 62 says, raising the need for disenfranchising ex-convicts and gerrymandering, the logic shows that voting is useful. Otherwise, so many schemers would not be happening. So my say is this. Oh, wait a minute. Well, yeah, AP says this. These people that say that they do not vote don't complain about the results. If voting wasn't so important to the racist white supremacists, why do they try so hard to keep you from voting? He's right. I say this. Get off your assets and vote. Go ahead, Fuller.
Bobby, why don't you say what you really feel? Let's well, let me say this, and I will say this in the Spirit of Mr. Fuller. I don't have all the answers. Mr. Bobby, Mo Fax, Mr. Fuller, none of us. What we try to do, we try to do all that we can to dismantle this system of white supremacy and racism and replace it with a system of justice. Is voting going to do that? Not likely, because no matter who you vote for, they're still into the system, regardless of their color or political affiliation. They're all under the influence of this system. So I have to ask myself, to the people who say I'm not going to vote, I'm going to say, what's your alternative? And you just tell me this, how's it going to work? Who's going to implement it? Who's it going to benefit? I mean, don't just say something's going to benefit you. Because like I said, we have children out here. We have people with disabilities. We have people with mental disabilities. We have people homeless on the streets. Who's going to work for them? Is your system that's going to replace this voting and this political system, is it going to serve them? We have an economy, trillions of dollars, that's being handed up to billionaires, shipped off to foreign wars, while we have people sleeping on the streets. That's your money. That's not their money. That's my money. And you darn right, when I put my money in something, I want to have a say in how it's going to be spent. Of course, that say is going to be diluted by the political process. But like Mr. Fuller said, a little bit of something is better than a whole lot of nothing. So, enough about this talk. Look, just do something. We have this system, it's flawed. But once again, policy is a mechanism in the system of racism. But that policy also governs your resources, your access to opportunity. It shapes your lived experiences, whether you like it or not. I'm not a pawn of this system, but I tell you, this system has a big impact on how I can move in the world. I wish it didn't. I go into this with my eyes wide open. I've examined the alternatives. I wish I could, with my resources, as limited as they may be, could come up with a system tomorrow to help the children who are being miseducated. I do what I can individually. I have my legs in a lot of different pots, my hands in a lot of different soups, but it's not enough. So what do? I say, but look, instead of you going out trying to start a new system, a new process, what about the one we already have that you're already paying into? Let's make that one work or make it better. Policy is a mechanism of this system. It has treated us badly in the past. We've seen things like war on drugs, mandatory sentencing, 3 strikes you're out. All of these laws and policies have not served us well. And they were the result of voting. So I understand somebody say, hey, look what voting has gotten us so far. But voting and policy has also gotten us a system. Many of you are getting ready to retire. You're going to get a check every month. Some of those checks are pretty healthy. Are you willing to turn that over to somebody else who may decide tomorrow that you're no longer going to get that check? So what if you start your own store? You start your own business. Do that too. Voting alone is not going to solve anything. But it's the system we have. It's the system that you're already vested in. Get the return on your investment. No, I'm not a political pawn. I'm not a shield for the Democrats. I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. I'm speaking from logic. Logic that you have a right to disagree with. I'm just making my case. I have this platform. I open this platform to you to make your case. This is not a dictatorship, and this is not a cult. Just because I vote, just because Mr. Bobby votes, just because Mr. Fuller voted, that does not mean you have to vote. But I have to make my case. That's the professor in me. That's the political scientist in me. That's the historian in me. That's the business developer in me. That's the logic in me. Mr. Bobby. Hold on, Mr. Bobby. Hold on, Mr. Bobby.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Bobby.
Okay. The chocolate box presents anytime you throw your weight behind the political party that controls 2/3 of the government and that party can't keep its promises it made to you during the election time. He ended that. That's Malcolm X. AP said this. Also, the same applies to those who have opposition to the current new programs. And he mentioned MSNBC, or now it's MS Now, and NOI, Nation of Islam, or others that you may dislike because the content or to match truth being revealed. Get Black with Me says apparently it's the people you are voting for. Sounds like alternative policies are possible. And Flying Guillotine said this. Great commentary. All right. And last one, Get Black with Me says this. Does one logic apply to all things? Good question. I don't, as Mr. Fuller would say, and as Mr. Bobby would say, and maybe Gate would say, I don't know. But what I do know is that if you want to have a say-so, even in your life, you got to get involved with it. You got to get involved with it. Yeah, hey, and that's why we're here at producejustice.com to give you a platform that you can sound off, whether you vote or not. Hopefully, you will exercise the logic in you. And as Spike Lee said, yeah, I'm going to go there, do the right thing.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby. Mr. Fuller did address voting in his book. In one page in his book, he actually stated that sometimes the racists give you this voting to make you feel like you're doing something, but not really giving you any real power. There's a lot of truth to that. And like you said, voting is not the only option to receive justice. We talked about economic action, organizing, educating our people, direct action, like taking it to the streets, protest, civil disobedience, self-determination. Hey, I practice all of those. Okay. I'll take it to the streets every now and then. I don't mind getting into the legal part of the equation. I definitely believe in economic action, and I'm big on self-determination. But there's one part that I just can't let go. And maybe, like I said, maybe I need to lay on somebody's couch, talk to a psychologist about this. I just can't let it go. I'm putting money in this system. I can't let that go. I put a lot of money in this system. I want a return on my investment. And my voting is like when I vote on that stock that I own. Okay? When I buy that Apple stock, when I buy that NVIDIA stock, okay? When I bought that Radio One stock, I'm voting. I want to vote. I want to say. And when I buy stock in this so-called democracy with my taxes, you darn right, I want a return on my investment. So you know what I do? I vote. Folks, that's going to wrap it up. And Get Black is right. Voting is only one aspect of the political process. There are others. So we're going to talk about this again. This is definitely not the last time. And guess what? I really appreciate the engagement today. I appreciate Mo Facts, his perspective. And this is a smart brother. Okay? His brother's smart. He's learned. I don't agree with his take, but I agree with his right to say it. Mr. Fuller gave us all a carte blanche, a get out of jail free card called VGQ. On that note, we're going to tune out. We'll be back with another show. Go to Produce Justice and you can get Mr. Fuller's books. We're coming out in the next few weeks. It's a really, really nice treat. You're going to love this. We have a nice leather-bound coffee table size of the original 1984 printing, personally autographed by Mr. Fuller. He left these books in a box, a white brown cardboard box. And he wrote on top of in his handwriting, he said pretty much to the effect that when I'm gone, I want you to offer these. He said, I'm not even sure what I want to do with them. But these are my original books from 1984. They were in a big coffee table size. And so I've been speaking with Mark, the owner of Produce Justice. And so what we're going to do, we're taking that book, we're putting it in a leather bound, and we're going to offer it. It's only 20 of these copies available. And so what we're going to do, we're going to make them available to the listeners of this show first before they go to the general public. So just keep an eye on producejustice.com, and I'll make the announcement also on the show when they're available. I want me a copy. Let's put it that way for starters. I don't want to get in the front of the line, but maybe the owners will put a copy aside for me. But anyway, thank you again for everybody. But stay tuned to producejustice.com for the upcoming developments. We got some video of Mr. Fuller and Dr. Francis. We have other products. And like, who was that? Was it Mo Facts? That pocket size? I like that. I like that. Like that. I do have that copy, that pocket size copy of the Constitution. And I keep it in my briefcase. But when I get into these discussions about the Constitution, I'm ready. So that's going to do it for today. Mr. Bobby, do you have any final things, or were you waving at me?
Like I always say, producejustice.com is my final word.
All right, folks, we'll see you next week. Until then, we're still learning. That's the bottom line. We're still learning.
If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, Everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time.